think everybody wants to buy their product. That's not the case. That's not the case. To start a company in a country that I didn't understand, in a language I didn't speak. So it was a pretty trial by fire. I don't think it's going to take people's jobs. If you're thinking about starting a company, just do it. Don't wait for the perfect moment.
Welcome to the Entrepreneur's Logbook podcast. I'm your host, Zachary Bernard. You can find me on social at It's Zach B. In each episode, I bring on experts from various industries for you to learn about their strategies and insights driving extra business growth. Today, we're joined by Eric Tabone, founder and managing director of Nearshore Business Solutions, a company that helps U.S. growth stage and mid-market businesses hire vetted professionals across Latin America as in little as 21 days. Eric is a US-born entrepreneur who left for Bogotá, Colombia 16 years ago, and he never looked back. What started as a trip turned into 3 companies built across Latin America, 200 plus candidates placed, and a hiring model that saved companies over $8 million in annual recurring hiring costs. Eric, it's great to have you on the show. Welcome aboard.
Hey, thanks, Zach, for having me. Really appreciate it.
Cool. Well, as this is like an entrepreneurship, like business podcast, one of the things I always like to ask like any of the guests that come on the show is a bit more around like, based on like what you've seen in the space, what you've done, is there anything specific that you feel if you were to restart your company from scratch, knowing everything that you know, that you would do differently?
Such a great question. So as you just kind of mentioned, I'm on my 3rd company. I often joke, I've done every single mistake in the book and I've done 1 or 2 things right. And experience, I mean, it doesn't beat experience, just making those mistakes. For my 3rd company, obviously, I've scaled this one much quicker as opposed to my other 2. There were 2 things that I kind of came into this company that I knew it was just a bit clear on what I had to do. And number 1, have clear who I'm actually selling to. I think one of the biggest mistakes a lot of people make when starting out companies, they think everybody wants to buy their product. That's not the case. That's not the case. And I think, doing this so many times, I'm coming with a bit more clarity. But then the second thing, and I know you only asked one, but I'll give one other thing, is figure out what you're good at and make sure you focus on that and get resources or a team or whatever it is to help you where you fall short. For example, I'm really good at talking with people, managing relationships, clients. And so 3rd time around, I got my head of operations in pretty quickly. And it's just made the world of difference because I knew where I was going to fall short to get that taken care of right away.
Yeah. And I mean, I think I wouldn't call it like the luxury, but I feel like you've had the luxury of having started other companies before. So when you got to like your 3rd, you've had the learning experiences, you were able to like adjust. But when you started that first company, you didn't have all those learnings. So you obviously had to go through these failures, but I like to call failures more like lessons. Like you have to go through these failures to be able to learn and improve, which obviously you've been able to apply to like your new company here, which I feel like every entrepreneur goes through.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, my first company, I was 24, 25 years old, and to start a company in a country that I didn't understand, in a language I didn't speak. So it was a pretty trial by fire. And I'm very grateful for those 10, 12 years of a lot of mistakes I made. Yeah, trial by fire is what it was like.
I love it. So going back a bit more to like what you're doing now, because a lot of founders, they think about Latin America and their brain immediately goes like, okay, like cost saving, if I want to like hire from there. While that's clearly part of like the equation, like the story, I get the sense that there's actually like something being undersold here, like what's actually happening beyond like just the cost saving, the numbers. What does like the talent pool actually look like? Because I feel that's a big misconception that people have when they look at that.
Yeah, 100%. So, I mean, just kind of taking a step back, the whole idea behind this company when I started it was to help companies rapidly scale and move forward when they needed people to join, especially going through whatever hurdles they had to on the domestic level. And I never say that in America is better than Asia or better than the US. It's just a different option. So one of the things I see on a daily basis and why clients come to us is because they need to hire pretty quickly. They probably do need to save some costs, but at the same time, they may not be able to find the people domestically or offshore. So they come to that in America. I mean, there's the reasons that everybody knows about, same time zones. Culturally, it is pretty aligned with the US and Canada and even Europe to an extent. But other things that people don't really think about is when it comes to the talent, is how educated and how developed a lot of these countries are. So I'm in Bogota, Colombia. We work across that. I would say 90% of our work, we work in four main countries: Mexico, Colombia, Brazil, or Argentina.
Mhm.
And on a daily basis, I'm seeing, you know, people that are coming from educational system that is just as well built up, great English, and oftentimes they have that drive that you might not see just from other countries for whatever reason.
Mhm.
One of the roles I see the most, and it might come as a surprise, is obviously some type of AI implementation, whether that's a developer, consultant, whatever.
Mhm.
And in Bogota is one of the cities that is actually leading the wave on AI implementation. So that's pretty cool to be able to find these people who know how to develop, whether that's, innate in any types of revenue data scraping. There's so many different things you could do, and these people work with us on a daily basis. And so what
Mhm.
we do in the US, they can't find those people. Sometimes we're able to fill that gap. The cost savings is a benefit, but it's only one of the many benefits that they get with us.
Yeah, and I'm actually kind of surprised that you mentioned that Bogota. And like for like AI, like I wouldn't be thinking that. Like you'd be thinking something like San Francisco or anything like that, where they're like I know they're obviously big on like AI, but it just goes to show that we have like misconception like beliefs around like talent and like people who have skills where you can
Yep.
hire from another country. They're gonna have the same dedication, same talent, same education, maybe even better in some cases, but you're going to reap like so much more benefits that you wouldn't be
Yeah.
getting if you hired from like the US, essentially.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. And then, I mean, especially Bogota and Colombia. So, Colombia, there's a couple hubs. You got Bogota and Medellin are the two
Mhm.
biggest ones. But on a daily basis, there's the AI meet, just like you would see in San Francisco. If you
Yeah.
walk into Bogota at a cafe and you didn't know you're in Bogota, sometimes you wouldn't even know if you're in London or Bogota or not. Yeah, it's pretty cool to see.
I love it. And I think like when people think about like nearshoring, like based on my research, like most people are going to think about like developers, like customer support roles, but I get the sense that conversation has evolved like a little bit beyond that. Like what kind of roles are you typically seeing in the industry for companies that you guys work with that are actually being like hired? And that might surprise some people here.
Yeah, so we do three main areas. So the way we kind of divide them up, we have the technical, facing, or
Mhm.
services. And so when you think about technical, one thing we are seeing on the shift side, when I talk about technical, I'm talking about engineers, developers,
Yeah.
DevOps, however you want to phrase that. The quantity is going down, but the quality is going up because obviously with AI and what's going on, they're no longer looking for the entry level developers. And so we've been able to up that quality and keep placing them. Without a doubt, one of our biggest clients right now is spitting out a BDR over and over again, recycle and repeat. And
Oh,
I have yet to find an AI or an AI solution that does better than actual people selling to people. And so,
yeah.
I get a lot of BDRs, a lot of customer service, a lot of AEs, just roles that you can't really replace just yet. You need to
Mhm.
scale. And with these companies, with these clients, we're doing 30, 40 placements on a monthly basis. And so it's
Yeah.
moving quite quickly. And so what I've noticed is when companies kind of strategically hire across the region for different roles, that's kind of what makes them successful.
Yeah. So that's interesting though. Cause I mean, there's like that mix of like the AI, but there's also still that side of things with the human component, which like a lot of people are thinking like, okay, I mean, as we start like moving along, AI is gonna be taking over, but there's still like talent and like the human, like SDR, like AE, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Executive,
Well,
I
I would
missed
ask,
up those, but
I would ask you this, Zach. Have you bought something from an AI bot yet? I'm going to
you
venture to
know,
guess no.
I don't think so, but you never know. Maybe I did, and it was like a deep fake or anything like that, and it was an AI, but I don't think so.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like, and because I stay in tune with this, and like I said, I've yet to find a good substitute for human to human connection. Now,
Yeah,
AI or any type of programming could often bring people on, but at the end of the day, people want to deal with people. And so that kind of goes back to
yeah.
Latin America. From a cultural standpoint, we are,
Hmm.
everybody in Latin America are with the US, with easy to speak with. And that's where that value add comes because it's not just the cost you mentioned.
Yeah, because I feel like one of like the main concerns that maybe a lot of like companies like the US when they are hiring, they're like, okay, I want to look at nearshoring. Like I want to hire someone from like another country. First thing they're going to be thinking is, especially in like a sales setting, they're going to be thinking, okay, if they're going to be talking to our customers, talking to potential customers, like we want to make sure that they know how to effectively speak English. They don't have like a major like accent. I mean, maybe if they have an accent, it's fine, but they want to feel that they're being represented in a way where they're not like outsourcing in like a totally like different country for like $3 like an hour or anything like that, which obviously some companies do, but you want to keep that like human touch, keep a good like relationship. But it seems that a lot of these people end up actually being like the same education or even more in some cases where they're very educated and they can even do like a better job than some SDR in some capacity.
Yeah.
Which I think is interesting.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. And like, the point about the language, I mean, the ongoing, I don't want to call it a joke, but I do find it kind of entertaining is most people we work with, they grew up on the show Friends. I mean, that's where a lot of people got exposed to English. And so,
Yeah.
a lot of these people, the majority of them we place, you have no idea if they actually grew up in the United States or that in America. They grew up in that in America, but they sound like you're speaking to somebody from San Francisco or Florida or New York. And so because of that, with the cultural alignment, like I said, going back to Friends, if you grow up on American TV shows, American culture, it's a bit easier to align as you create this connection to actually sell and move things.
Yeah, it becomes like ingrained in like what you do. I mean, I think watching TV shows is probably like the easiest way to like learn a new language. So I feel like it's like applicable in like the same capacity there.
Yeah, completely. Yeah, you're completely spot on with
of that. And one of the question I was like a bit curious about, because we've done. I mean, I'm not sure if I would call it like nearshoring, but we've had employees from like Brazil, et cetera, and like other countries that we've hired. And if you're from like an operational level, I think where like a lot of companies are going to be like hesitating is going to be like the fact that, okay, it's like someone remote, it's across a totally different country, maybe it's a different like time zone. For like a founder that's like really used to the team maybe being the same building, like the same country or anything like that, how does that model make that integration work? Because I feel that's like a big thing that a lot of founders get stuck on, and that stops them from getting the cost saving, but also getting amazing talent in the first place.
Yeah. So, I mean, if this isn't your first remote hire, I usually have a chat before it and I share best practice. And so I actually do what I preach. And so my entire team is remote. And with them every single day, I have a 10-minute stand up. It takes 10 minutes to run through, connect, and make sure we're good to go. But then on top of that, making sure everybody has the tools and there's no blockers on their end. So as a founder, as an operator, whatever your role is, if you're going to build out that team, the leader of that team is there to ensure that there are no blockers. And then from there, it's constant communication. I mean, Slack is our best friend, but it doesn't have to be Slack, but whatever type of communication channel. And then on an operational standpoint, we have weekly check-ins, weekly one-to-ones to make sure things are moving forward. If the role is set up correctly, people work for deliverables. You don't need to be micromanaging them. If you come from an organization where you expect somebody to be in the office, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. and they get their 10-minute lunch break or whatever it is, the founder, operator, whatever wants to be looking on their shoulder, seeing their computer screen at all times. Full transparency, this may not be the best model. Doesn't mean it's not worth a trial. But I think once you kind of build that organization, have those communication channels and build on trust, it tends to work pretty well. My team and I always say, I don't care where you work, just get the job done. And every now and then you might see me working in a different country. My team might be working from the beach or whatever, but we all get the job done and just making sure you establish that.
Yeah. And I feel that comes down to like building like a good company culture that like encourages that in like the first place. So I guess like one thing I'd be curious about, like when you go ahead and you start working with these clients, is there like a part of like the equation that's like, hey, like you need to make sure if you're just starting this, like you're starting to nearshore, get some nearshore hiring, that you need to be adjusting the culture to be able to match that? Because I feel there's probably some cases that a disconnect happens. And that's where maybe it's not the best fit. You want to ensure that there's obviously a good company culture in place that will make it a successful, not transition, but like integration within like the organization.
Yeah, exactly. No, so you're kind of go back to it. If that culture doesn't exist, it may or may, it's probably not going to be successful. However, what I would say everybody who comes to me, one way or not, they're actually open to making this work and trialing it. And so I always run them through, hey, these are the top 5 practices. And it's not difficult to implement. It's just, are you willing to give this a try? And we adjust those and we work together. But then it kind of goes back to like with all of our clients, we probably have give or take about 60 to 70 clients that we're working with at any given time. And the majority of them are on Slack channels with whether it's me or my team or whatever. And so
Hmm.
when they have that communication with us, it's easier for us to help them communicate and deliver the communication or
Yeah.
expectations to the candidates that we place. And then from
Mhm.
there, we just get to work in trial.
Yeah.
But
But
like I said, it's just yeah. I mean, there's a couple things that we just got to hit over and over again, and when they do it, it's gonna be success.
Yeah, but I feel like when they work with you too, like an advantage is the fact that you have that ingrained in like your own culture. Like you were talking about like doing what you teach, like you preach. So I feel like doing that, you have the same type of communication, you're maybe just like remote all across the globe. They can see that and they can start like integrating that within like their own company culture. And as you get
Yeah,
more hires, I mean, it just like the wheels just like roll really easily without
just
like
keep
any
spinning.
issues there.
Yeah, I'm drinking my own medicine, and I think at the end of the day, like it works for us, and I'm
Yeah.
what we do as an organization at Nearshore Business Solutions. We're very agile, we're quick, but there's a reason why we drink our own medicine, and and
Yeah.
and we practice reach, and it's the same. Like when clients come to us, always very open. I always share everything we do within our organization, and more often than not, our you can actually learn from us and take it and move forward and just become a better organization with a better culture.
Yeah, no, I love that. And we've started doing that too, where like we want to provide any clients resources, not just on like our offerings, but like it could be related to like growing your company, like doing outbound, LinkedIn
Mm,
outreach, because we do a lot of those and that's a primary method of like biz dev. And we started doing that. And I
yeah.
feel like a lot of companies should be doing something similar. You should be trying to help your clients in any way possible, whether it's building a better company culture, helping them grow the company. I mean, I think the motto or like way I like to think about it is we should be working with clients with one goal to become a partner that they never want to like not stop working with. Like you want to be an amazing partner. And I feel that's like the integration you're able to provide. And when you're providing them candidates, you're building that great company culture with them and you're helping them make that like integration within their company.
Yeah, and but what you just shared, like to me, there's a difference between a good company and a great company. And a great company
Yeah.
is somebody who doesn't look at like this is the only thing I do. They actually look at this from a holistic.
Hmm.
How do we ensure that their entire experience is going to keep them with us for the long term?
Yeah.
And so all the extra resources that you were just talking about, that might be an extra 50% of deliverable that doesn't actually go to your business model, but clients
Hmm.
find such great value on that. They just stay.
Yeah.
That's when
Yeah.
companies become great. Good on you. Yeah, exactly. Right on.
I appreciate that, but I'm sure you have similar strategies and things that you've implemented to make sure that your clients do get value. And I feel that's something that everyone can learn from here. And another thing, because I know we've personally gone through that process when we were looking at like hiring someone from like another country. Like one of like the first question I was asking myself is, if we're hiring someone from like another country, like how does like the legal side of things work? Like there's always that
Yeah.
confusion where it's like the employee of record versus setting up your entity abroad. Like, can you break that down in like more like plain terms? Because I don't want to get in like the too like attorney
And-
legal side of things, but
right.
compliance. But I love to understand like how that works and to see for someone to look at it and see if it makes sense, like their current growth status or like where they're
Yep.
at.
Yeah, great question. And it comes up all the time. And I kind of go back. I think pandemic to an extent helped accelerated these solutions to make this very easy for companies out there. So, I mean,
Mhm.
realistically, you have three main options that most of our clients at least explore and look at. I mean, the first that comes in is going to be contractors. So that'd be the equivalent of like having a 1099. And so with contractors, you could bring them on different platforms. EOR stands for employer of record. And so with an employer of record, they pretty much act as a third party entity to help you directly employ this person in whatever country you are hiring. Within the UR, you have contractors or employees. If you do contractors, you run them all through the same platform. You do one payment to the platform. You don't have to manage any international transfers. And they make it so incredibly easy. They also manage all the onboarding, ID, verifications. people setting up their bank accounts. It's so incredibly easy.
Mhm.
And it's such a great way to at least start testing the waters. And then with that, I guess the second option, kind of what you mentioned, is with the EOR, employer records. Once again, there's a ton out there. Anybody needs a
Mhm.
recommendation, drop me a message. But you could actually hire them as legal employees. So with that in America, if you're paying somebody, let's say $30,000 a year, you'd pay the salary plus statutory benefits. They manage everything for you, and you're dealing with the U.S. entity that is the legal hiring in any country. These platforms usually work in for 180 countries. So there's very few countries you could probably there's very few countries you would not be able to hire somebody in.
Mhm.
And so it just makes it so incredibly like for somebody testing the waters, the
Yeah.
onboarding is a matter of a week or two, and within 2 weeks you could have your team completely legally on. One thing you did mention is just like when you talk about the entities, let people think that's the first thing that they got to do. Starting an
Mhm.
entity to actually hire people, yeah, it makes sense when you know this is the solution you want to do. You're going to grow your team to 10, 20, 50, 100 people. Yes, that makes sense. Most companies want to try this up. And I always say start off on the EUR, on the employee of record, the waters. Let's make sure this works for your business model. And when you're ready, we could then explore the legal solution.
Yeah. Love that. Because, yeah, I feel like it just, like, if you just look at the concept, like hiring someone from another country, if you haven't done it before, you're looking like that, like, picture, and you're like, what am I supposed to do here? Like, I feel like I need to get like
Yeah.
5 attorneys to get this rolling, get a new company that in a different country.
Yeah.
But there's obviously ways to like streamline that to make it a bit more efficient, to put it very simply.
Yeah, and another part that's kind of happening because of this shift with hiring globally, there are hundreds of EORs out, hundreds of employee of records out. There's a few
Hmm.
that I work with quite a bit. Like, um, I the ones I work with, we work so close, we know exactly what it works. And at the end of the day, if somebody just Googles EOR, you could probably
Yeah.
get somebody onboarded, like I said, within 2 weeks. And so it's this whole dynamic and this new industry that has popped up thanks to
Hmm.
pandemic to an extent, have pretty
Yeah.
much fueled this new wave of global hiring, whether you're going offshore, such as Asia, onshore, which is US, Canada, wherever you're based, or nearshore, which is going to be Latin America.
Yeah. Like I feel the pandemic has brought us like so many opportunities. I mean, for some people it's been a curse. Some people it's been a blessing and a curse. I mean, I would say for
Yeah.
us, I mean, we've launched close to that. So I was really happy. I mean, not happy, but I was fortunate to have gone through that period. And I feel that a lot of other people have gone through that too. And it seems for like the hiring
Yep.
space, it's been like somewhat about a similar concept here without the blessing and a curse.
I was telling my daughter this yesterday. I have a couple kids, but my oldest, who's 6, and I was just telling her about pandemic. So she was born right before pandemic. My wife were just talking. And I don't know about you, but I know for a lot of people, pandemic, people had to work up the doors to work remotely.
Hmm.
I've been working remote since pandemic. Yeah, I can't even imagine going back into an office, but that would
Yeah.
have happened in a pandemic. Yeah, as you mentioned,
Yeah.
for some it was a blessing. For quite a few, it was a curse. But it opened up doors
Mm.
and shifted mindsets to see how things could work. And then with global hiring
Yeah.
surge, and even now we're still seeing that surge with global hiring.
Yeah. One of the things that I'd love to like touch on as like we wrap things up is I know that basically in every conversation nowadays, the AI side of things is always like brought into play here. But I'd really be curious like how in terms of, like application, like how AI is being used in like the recruiting, hiring process. Because I feel like it can be used in multiple ways, but in my experience, I've spoken to some people in like the staffing, hiring space, and they told me there was definitely a lot of like use cases for it. But some of them are like, yeah, it's not really there yet. We're like, we're not going to get like an AI calling potential candidates and screening them and everything like that. You can, but that can obviously affect like the experience that the candidates have. But I'd be curious to hear like what kind of strategies you guys are using within AI, because from my understanding, you're like a big AI guy. So I'm assuming you have
Yeah,
a couple
100%.
things under the hood that you guys are doing
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, so we're an AI first organization. More than anything, I just find it absolutely. I don't think it's gonna take people's jobs. I think it's only gonna help propel people to be more effective at their jobs. I think some industries or some roles are gonna go away. But I don't
Hmm.
think it's gonna be the doom and gloom people talk. We use AI for a couple different things. The more practical ones would be probably something that saves my team per person, probably at least 10 hours a week per person. At least
Mhm.
25% of their time is how we build out candidate profiles when we send them over. And when you think of like staffing or recruitment, usually the process looks pretty similar across organizations, is where the recruiters go out and get to know candidates and they spend time with them. And then we got to build out that profile or however we want to send the information over to our clients. Clients are usually the companies that are hiring.
Mhm.
Up until about a year ago, I mean, that profile could take anywhere from 30 minutes to 2 hours to build out.
Yeah.
And something that we do is, as soon as we get off our initial calls, we have automations in AI pretty much pulls our audio or video transcripts. We pull their resume. We pull any interview, pre conversation information that we had, and we bring it all together to start building out the profile. So
Mhm.
within 3 minutes, we have the profile delivered to us in Slack. But
Yeah.
that doesn't go to the client. That is always have to be reviewed by somebody's eyes, a human, to make sure
Mhm.
everything makes sense. Because sometimes it doesn't get it right. But that pretty much
Yeah.
fills out the initial profile and it gets us 90%.
Oh yeah.
Other things we do that I think are really cool, just how we do technical screenings. We're going to be interviewing for a DevOps or engineer. I know the basics about DevOps, but I don't know how to. And so, about 5 minutes before the interview, it actually pops up what technical questions we have to go through. And then, as soon as we
Mhm.
get off the interview, it runs a transcript through to test their technical knowledge. And from there, we can then build our own reports.
Huh.
Those are the two biggest things we use. We also use it for quite a bit of, sales and go to market, making sure we're prepped
Yeah.
for meetings. When we have to review MSAs or contracts, making sure we don't miss anything. So there's a lot of smaller use cases, but those two
Yeah.
right there, I mean, just the profile bit out is saving each person on my team 10 hours a week at least.
Yeah.
You do the math. Pretty exciting.
Yeah, it amounts to quite a lot of hours. And I mean, we've seen like the same things. And I love your philosophy that it helps us be more efficient, but it's not necessarily going to replace us. I mean, some industries, yes, but what that's going to create is other jobs to monitor these AIs and like AI engineer and things like that. And I know I believe when we spoke initially, you mentioned that you had someone on your team that was like an AI engineer, like AI analytic person, so something like that, which I feel like not a lot of companies have that. And I feel that's
Yeah.
a very interesting side of things when you're thinking about like AI being more efficient, everything like that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I have a great guy on my team, and his only job is to help me think through ideas. So when I come up with some, or if I see a repetitive task, I
Hmm.
tend to try to put some thoughts on paper. Then he helps digest whatever I put down to then automate. I'll
Yeah.
give an example. Like last Monday, I had this idea. I'm like, this is taking us. I think there was a task that one of my sales guys was taking on. Like, and I just put it on paper and I said, help me automate that. And I woke up to my Slack this morning, like, here's test one. Let's go test it, make sure it works. And so obviously,
Yeah.
most organizations don't need an AI or automation engineer,
Mhm.
but I do think most organizations at least need a, a way to start exploring and executing with these tasks to make
Yeah.
the rest of the team better.
No, I love that. I mean, there's so many use cases. I'm sure that we will find other ways to be more efficient. I mean, even like the hiring process here. But I love that. And just like wrapping things up, one of the things I always like to get is more is like some like actual like insights. I know you've obviously
Mhm.
been around the block, but very simply
Yep.
started 3 companies. But
Yep.
sticking a bit more on the like the recruiting, hiring side of things. So if you have a company, they're like, hey, we obviously we're doing well, we're trying to grow, we are trying to obviously get good talent, but we're trying to
Mhm.
be also like cost efficient too. Is there
Yep.
like a couple things that they should be looking at within their organization before they look at hiring like nearshore hires or anything like that? Obviously, there's a lot of things that go into play, but you broke down a couple. But I'd love to hear if
Mhm.
there's like a bullet point like checklist that they should be looking at.
Yeah, there's a couple high level things that I would always run people through before they start. But I mean, number
Mhm.
one, do they have the role clear, or what is this person going to do? Number
Yeah.
two, can they do it from a computer? I mean, obviously this goes without saying, but you cannot hire somebody in Medellin, Colombia to be a plumber in New York. So,
Yeah.
but making sure you could do that with that and making sure those things go in line. And then number three, do you have the proper communication channels and to an extent culture set up?
Hmm.
We had chatted about that, but I can't stress this enough.
Hmm.
If somebody's going to walk into an organization, a new person, wherever you hire them from, Colombia, Brazil, Argentina, whatever,
Yeah.
but if they don't have it set up on a way to actually get access to the resources they need, they don't have proper communication channels, and the expectation isn't clear, this isn't going to be successful. There's no point in an organization actually trying to move forward with this strategy if it's going to be a disaster. So I always say, hey, take a step back, think through this. Does this make sense for your strategic map? However you want to set that. And then once you do that, then let's sit down and look at the actual details and the fine print to see what type of
Mm.
teams or profiles or individuals we could build out. And we work with clients who they do one person and they're happy. And we also work with other clients who hire 50 people over the course of 30, 40 days. So
Yeah.
we work everywhere in between with that.
Yeah, I mean, it obviously depends, like the organization, what their goal is, and everything like that. But for example, if you're trying to scale your sales department, you might get 10 SDRs, sorry, and you're like, let's get this rolling, let's get the wheel in motions here.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And that's where I see a few organizations going. And as I mentioned earlier,
Mhm.
one of our biggest clients, they built out a BDR team of 50, 60 people with us, with hiring people across. And every month they're adding, from 5 to 10 more. And because they know the math works for them from a culture.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's crazy. 50 to 60 directly. They're scaling, so I love to see it. Perfect. Well, Eric, any like parting thoughts, actual input, insight, advice that you would have for anyone listening to the show? I always like to make sure we can get some value to the listeners. I know we covered a lot of ground, but if there's anything else
Yeah.
that comes to mind, I'll give you the floor
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, I mean, just a couple random things in no specific order. But I mean,
Sure.
for those listening, if you're thinking about starting a company, just do it. Don't wait for the perfect moment. And I say that because more often than not, I see people coming up with an idea and they wait 10 years, 15 years, and they don't actually execute and do. And you don't
Yeah.
have to be as stupid as I was and move to a different country and try to start a company. I mean, most companies you could start wherever you want, but just get it going and start stress testing to see how it responds. And then for those people who out there who actually have companies or operators who are trying to scale, if you haven't looked at nearshoring, if you haven't looked at hiring that America, it's worth a look. I'm always very clear. It's not for every organization out there.
Mhm.
For quite a few organizations, it does make sense. It's something that people ever want to talk about, want to hear a bit more about Latin America, or just dork out about, you know how to get in touch with me on LinkedIn or a website or anything like that. And we got to work through that. That makes sense.
Yeah, I was gonna like ask you this because I know you're active on like LinkedIn. I think you started posting a bit of content there too. But for anyone that wants to get in touch with you, to like, hey, I want to work with Eric. I want to get some advice. Make sure that we can implement this. Where should they be looking at? You have your website, LinkedIn, anywhere else?
Yeah, website Eric Tabone. My profile header it says something. I'm like the unofficial ambassador of Colombia to the world. So I'm pretty easy to find. Feel free to drop me a message on our website. And if you come through the website, just mention you heard me, and my team will get that filtered directly to me. But website is just nearshorebusinesssolutions.com, or just Google Nearshore Business Solutions. Anything like that will
Yeah.
come up, or so find us on ChatGPT. We are mentioned quite a bit across the LL. Give it a shot.
Ahead of his time. Not a lot of people have that figured out, that they need to work with the LLM to show up in ChatGPT. So
Yep, surprisingly one of our biggest sources of leads these days, coming up in ChatGPT and Claude, as well as a bit of Gemini. And if you're not doing it, get on that as well pretty quickly.
Interesting. Well, great. You heard that, everyone. Head over to nearshorebusinesssolutions.com if you want to learn more, if you want to get in touch with Eric. To your listeners, if you've enjoyed this episode, Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, leave a review, follow, comment, all that fun stuff. And until then, keep pushing, and we'll see you in the next one.